Are you putting on COVID weight? Dr. Michael Greger tells us how to diet. Check it out. Leave your comments, ding the bell, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our channel. On the line with us is Dr. Michael Greger. For years, I've been talking about him and his website, nutritionfacts.org, one of my absolute favorite websites on the entire internet. He is the source of a lot of information that Louise and I have used in our own personal lives with regard to nutrition and diet and things like that. And he's got a new book out, and I wanted to get him on and talk about it. He is a physician, author, internationally recognized speaker on nutrition, food safety, and public health issues. His previous book, How Not to Die, and How Not to Diet, and the How Not to Die Cookbook. And he has a new book out, the How Not to Diet Cookbook. I forgive my misspeaking. Dr. Greger, welcome back to the program. It's been too long. Thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so glad to be back.
Thank you. Tell us about your book.
Oh, well, it's so much nutritional noise and nonsense these days. I just wanted there to finally be an evidence-based diet book, and I cite literally thousands of studies digging up every possible tip, trick, tweak, technique proven to accelerate the loss of body fat, to give people every possible advantage, and basically build the optimal weight loss solution from the ground up. So that was How Not to Diet, but I wanted to make a practical guide to put the mountain of evidence into practice, and so hence the new cookbook out today, the How Not to Diet Cookbook. So
what is I know that you have been an advocate for years and years and years of a plant-based diet. What advice would you give people on how not to diet? What are the major mistakes that people make with diets? First of all, let's start with that point. I mean, this is particularly as we go into the holidays here. It's a time that people tend to overeat, sure. And on top of that, a lot of people have been essentially in lockdown for 8 months or longer, and are fighting a few pounds from that as well. To you, sir.
Yeah. Look, diets don't work by definition, because going on a diet implies at some point you're going to go off the diet. Permanent weight loss requires permanent dietary change. Healthier habits just need to become a way of life. If it's going to be lifelong, you want it to lead to a long life. And thankfully, the single best diet proven for weight loss may just so happen to be the safest, cheapest way to eat for the longest, healthiest life. And look, this is the time to start taking better care of ourselves. I mean, consider the underlying risk factors for COVID-19 severity and death: obesity, heart disease, hypertension, type 2 diabetes, all of which can be controlled or even reversed with a healthy enough plant-based diet and lifestyle.
So for somebody who is thinking of trying a plant-based lifestyle, let's call this, rather than diet, where should a person begin?
Well, if there were just 3 foods to add to one's diet, then I would encourage people to eat berries, the healthiest fruits, greens, the healthiest vegetables, and legumes, beans, split peas, chickpeas, and lentils, some of the healthiest foods, all part of my daily dozen checklist of all the healthy foods I encourage people to fit into their daily diet, part of a free app for iPhone and Android, Dr. Greger's Daily Dozen. In fact, if you toggle over to weight loss mode, there's also the 21 tweaks to accelerate weight loss that I talk about in How Not to Diet. And if there were just 3 things first to remove from one's diet, if you only had 3, then number 1 would be trans fats. 2 would be processed meat, bacon, ham, hot dogs, lunch meat, sausage. These are category 1 carcinogens. We know they cause cancer in human beings. And also soda, liquid candy. We shouldn't be drinking our calories. So those would be the top 3 things to add, top 3 things to take away. And if we just did that, we'd be on the road towards better health.
So for somebody who's eating the standard American diet and comparing that with somebody who goes on a plant-based diet, what is the difference in the rates? I mean, the number 1 and 2 killers, before COVID came around, it became the number 1 killer in America, I think 2 weeks ago. But prior to that, and you point out, the major risk factors for COVID are also all diet related, every single one of them. So for somebody who's on a standard American diet versus somebody who's been on a plant-based diet for a while, what are the differences in the rates of heart disease, cardiovascular disease, the risk of stroke, the risk of heart attack, the risk of cancer? How real, how big are these differences?
Every single year for the last century, from 1919 to 2019, the number one killer in the United States for both men and women, heart disease. But it wasn't 101 years ago because we had pandemic flu, and it may not be this year because of yet another pandemic. But when this pandemic is over, we will go back to killing ourselves with the standard American diet. According to the Global Burden of Disease study, the largest study of disease risk factors in history funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the number one cause of death in these United States is the American diet. And there's only one diet ever proven to reverse the course, not just slow down, stop, but reverse heart disease, is a diet centered around whole plant food. So, like, if that's all a plant-based diet could do, reverse the number one killer of men and women, shouldn't that kind of be the default diet to proven otherwise? And the fact that can also be so effective in preventing, arresting, reversing other leading killers like type 2 diabetes and high blood pressure would seem to make the case for plant-based eating simply overwhelming.
Back in the late 70s, early 1980s, I met Nathan Pritikin, and he was singing this song. And he was largely being trashed for it. My wife and I had started a community for abused kids up in New Hampshire that was entirely vegetarian, and we were, getting wired into this whole network of people. And he was supporting, what we were doing also, and vice versa. And we've been, eating this way since the 60s, frankly. By and large. I mean, for a long time we thought that cheese and eggs were just fine, and you're one of the people who kind of woke me out of that one. But how is it that science knows now? I mean, the Cleveland Clinic research and everything else, and I know we just have 2 minutes left here. How is it that we know for a fact that if you simply abandon animal products from your diet, you are going to live longer, you're not going to get heart disease, you're not going to get cancer, or you're less likely to get heart disease or cancer, and yet physicians are not recommending this to their patients? It's not part of standard advice. I mean, what the hell's going on in this country?
Well, look, I mean, the doctors have a severe nutrition deficiency in education. Most doctors just never taught about the impact healthy nutrition can have on the course of illness. So, look, they graduate without this powerful tool in their medical toolbox. Now, look, there's also institutional barriers, time constraints, lack of reimbursement. I mean, in general, doctors simply aren't paid for counseling patients on to take better care of themselves. And, of course, look, the drug companies also play a role in influencing medical education and practice. But, look, ask your doctor when's the last time they were taken out to dinner by Big Broccoli. It's probably been a while.
Yeah. So how do we best wake up friends and neighbors? I'm assuming the starting point is to get them a copy of your book, The How Not to Diet Cookbook, right?
It's all about sticking to the science, right? And so, they can go to my website, nutritionfacts.org, free, nonprofit, science-based public service providing daily updates on the latest in nutrition research and via bite-sized videos and more than 2,000 health topics with new videos and articles uploaded every day at nutritionfacts.org. Yeah,
and I got to tell you, it's one of my absolute go-to spots for we've done segments on this show, quoting you. We played clips of you on this program. I hope that's okay with you. I've been a big fan for a long time. Dr. Michael Greger, his new book is The How Not to Diet Cookbook. His website is nutritionfacts.org. Check it out if you want to live longer and better. Dr. Greger, thanks again for dropping by.